Long before history wrote the names of kings, there was a boy the world forgot. A boy who couldn't fight, couldn't win, and couldn't find his purpose, until the night he walked straight toward the darkness and met a shadow that would change his destiny. His name was Aran of Salvale. In his village, he wasn't the chosen one. He was the mistake. He dropped spears, missed every arrow, and stumbled over his own feet. Even the youngest kids fought better than him. The older boys would shove him into the mud, laughing as he struggled to stand. He was the target of every joke, the symbol of every failure. While others trained to become warriors, Aran was left to sweep the dirt and mend the fences, always on the outside looking in. But every night, as the sun dipped below the jagged peaks of the mountains, Aran would sit alone, staring into the encroaching darkness. He'd ask himself the same question, a whisper lost in the wind. If I'm not meant to be a warrior, then what am I? He felt like a ghost in his own life, a puzzle piece that didn't fit anywhere. Then, one night, everything changed. A strange stillness fell over the village. The usual chirping of crickets went silent. Aran felt a cold prickle on the back of his neck, the unmistakable feeling of being watched. He turned, and there, at the edge of the forest, stood a figure made of smoke and silence. It was tall, impossibly so, a shifting column of darkness against the moonlit trees. It had no more face, made no more sound, and left no footprints on the damp earth. It was just a presence, ancient and alive, and its gaze felt like it was piercing right through him. Every instinct, every fiber of his being, screamed at him to run, to turn and flee back to the firelight, back to the safety of the village walls. But in that moment of terror, another voice, deeper and quieter, whispered inside him, "If you fear everything, you'll become nothing." He had been running his whole life from bullies, from failure, from himself. Tonight, he wouldn't. So he took a breath, clenched his fists, and stepped forward, toward the shadow. As he drew closer, the smoky figure didn't move. It simply waited. When he was just a few feet away, a voice echoed, not in the air, but inside his own mind, a rumble that vibrated through his bones. "Aran of Solfale, why do you run from your strength?" Aran's own voice was a choked whisper. "I have none." He expected mockery, a dismissal, but the shadow leaned closer, its form swirling like ink in water. "Then why," it rumbled, "did you walk toward the darkness instead of away from it?" Before Aran could answer, the shadow extended a formless hand. Resting in its center was a small, dark stone, glowing with a faint, internal light. It placed the strange black stone into Aran's trembling hands. It was warm, humming with a quiet energy, as if it were alive. "This is the heart of Vala," the shadow explained. "It is not a gift, it is a challenge." And just as quickly as it appeared, the figure dissolved back into the night, leaving Aran alone with the pulsing stone and a heart full of questions. The very next morning, chaos erupted. A massive wild boar, its eyes red with fury, stormed into the village, tearing through fences and scattering livestock. The village's best warriors grabbed their spears, but they hesitated, their experience telling them this beast was different, unnaturally vicious. But Aran, who was hauling water nearby, felt the stone in his pocket pulse with warmth. He looked at the panicking villagers, at the warriors frozen in place, and he knew he couldn't stand by. His hands shook, his legs trembled. He was still the boy who dropped spears, but the stone was a constant, warm reminder, echoing the shadow's words. Courage is a choice. He grabbed a broken spear shaft from the ground, more a pointed stick than a weapon. As the boar charged toward a terrified child, Aran didn't think. He moved. He dodged the razor-sharp tusks, his movements clumsy but desperate. The beast spun, and in that split second Aran drove the broken spear into its side with all his might. The boar roared, stumbled, and fell. Silence fell over the village, and for the first time in his life, Aran did not run. Weeks later, a strange sickness swept through Salvale and the neighboring villages. People grew weak, their breath shallow, a creeping fever that no healer could cure. The village chief, his own daughter afflicted, announced the grim truth. The only cure was a rare herb called lunaris, which grew only on the peak of the haunted Ghost Mountains, a treacherous place where travelers vanished, their spirits said to be swallowed by the eternal fog. Despair settled over the people. Then, a voice cut through the silence. "I'll go." It was Aran. The chief turned, his face a mix of disbelief and pity. He laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. You're just a boy who got lucky with a boar." Aran met his gaze, his voice steady. "I'm a boy who's done running." The journey was a nightmare. The ghost mountains lived up to their name. Icy winds sliced through his clothes, and the thick, swirling fog disoriented him. The mountains seemed to attack his mind, not just his body. Shadows twisted into the shapes of his past tormentors. Voices, carried on the wind, whispered his greatest fears, repeating every insult he'd ever heard. Quitter, failure, weakling. But every time a wave of fear threatened to drown him, the heart of valor warmed his hand, a silent anchor in the storm of doubt. At the very peak, he found a frozen lake, its surface as smooth and dark as obsidian. In the center, a single, glowing plant pulsed with soft, silver light, the luminous. But as Aran stepped onto the ice, he stopped. He looked down and saw not his own reflection, but a twisted, broken version of himself. It was every fear he had ever held, given form. The quitter, cowering in a corner. The failure, dropping his spear. The nobody, invisible to the world. The reflection's voice hissed from the ice, a venomous whisper. "You see, this is who you are. You will always be nothing." But Aran grabbed the stone in his pocket, feeling it burn with life, a searing, defiant heat. He shouted at the image, his voice echoing across the silent peak. "No, I choose who I become, not my fear." As he yelled, a crack shot across the ice, shattering the reflection into 1,000 pieces. The frozen lake steadied. His own face, determined and real, stared back at him. He walked to the center and took the cure. When Aran returned, weary but alive, the village erupted. The sick were given the lunaris, and one by one, they recovered. The chief, his daughter safe, bowed his head to the boy he had mocked. The warriors, who had once laughed at him, lowered their spears in a sign of respect. Aran, the boy who once failed at everything, had become the one they all depended on. That night, as he stood looking at the mountains he had conquered, the shadow returned. It materialized from the darkness, its presence no longer terrifying, but familiar. "You've earned your strength," its voice rumbled in his mind. "Not from the stone, not from a sword, but from the courage you chose again and again." The shadow then faded for the last time, its challenge complete. Aran didn't become a legend because he was the strongest or the most skilled. He became one because he walked toward fear when everyone else ran away. He learned that true strength isn't the absence of fear, but the will to act in spite of it. Remember, this greatness isn't something you are born with. It's not a gift given to a chosen few. It's earned by choosing courage over comfort, one difficult step at a time, every single day. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, hit that subscribe button for more tales of courage and transformation.